Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and lately I've been working on a video on Kahoot. Now, this is not a sponsored video or anything, but Kahoot is a website that you and your friends can use to do trivia together and compete for the best score. Basically, if you get the question right, and the faster you answer the question, the more points you get, and at the very end, somebody is declared the winner. It's pretty fun, and I figured it would make for a really fun live stream and a video if I put together a Call of Duty multiplayer Kahoot and then compete with my friends. Well, rather have my friends compete because I'm the one making up the questions. But in the process of preparing for that stream and video, I was doing a bunch of fact-checking on the questions that I came up with, and while doing that, I stumbled upon something about the Call of Duty franchise that I knew really nothing about, and I thought it would make for a fun video. So, we all know about Infinity Ward, we all know Treyarch, we all know Sledgehammer Games, Raven Software, and even Phoenix. But what about Certain Affinity? I'm sure that name rings a bell for some of you, but I feel like for a lot of people, the work that Certain Affinity has done for the Call of Duty franchise has gone wildly unknown, and I figured it would make for an interesting video here today to kind of discuss that and talk about the unsung heroes of the Call of Duty franchise. So, Certain Affinity is a small indie studio in Texas, and they've been around since 2006. Activision has contracted them out on occasion to help with designing multiplayer maps, starting way back with Call of Duty World at War. They were responsible for designing the vehicle combat in the game, as well as maps like Downfall, Roundhouse, Outskirts, Subpens, Bonsai, and even Corrosion. This would continue on in the original Black Ops, where they designed and arted 3 multiplayer maps, including Discovery and Stadium, as well as they provided the art for 2 other multiplayer maps. In Call of Duty Ghosts, they helped create the map Freefall, and in 2016, they were basically responsible for recreating 14 of the 18 maps that were used in that game's campaign. On top of Call of Duty, Certain Affinity has worked on Halo, Left 4 Dead, Doom, Mafia, World of Tanks, Crackdown. Like, this is basically just a super talented indie studio that gets contracted out to work on massive titles, and while yes, they do get credits in the credit of the games that they work on, I feel like a lot of people don't even know about them. I mean, when we think about World at War, we think Treyarch. When we think of Modern Warfare Remastered, we think Raven Software. The reality of the situation, and I suppose we always knew this, but it's just something that we don't really acknowledge all that much, is that every Call of Duty title is made by dozens of different groups. All of these different studios are all working together to create one unified experience, and sometimes that works out incredibly well, like Modern Warfare Remastered. I think anyone that played that game, new weapons and new DLC aside, I think anyone who played that game would agree that they recreated Call of Duty 4 perfectly. It was so lovingly recreated, weapon quirks and all. I remember I was doing some testing in that game, and I remember back in Call of Duty 4, the pathing of the helicopter, right? And you can kind of guess where the helicopters were going to go, and as a result, you could set up to put yourself in the best position to blow it up. And specifically on the map Overgrown, the helicopter would get so low at one point that you could throw a C4 at it and blow it up in pretty much one hit. And we tested that in a private match, and I made a video on it because the C4 would not stick to the helicopter. Back in COD 4, the C4 would stick. In Modern Warfare Remastered, it didn't. I made that video, somebody at Raven Software saw it, and then like the very next day, they made it so C4 could stick to helicopter. Like, that is how into that old game that they were. They wanted to lovingly recreate every aspect of Call of Duty 4, and it turned out perfectly. But then, on the flip side of the coin, sometimes when all these different studios are working together to make a game, it doesn't really work out, like the game that Raven Software and Sledgehammer Games were working on, for example, right? I'm sure you guys remember, before Black Ops Cold War, Raven Software and Sledgehammer Games were going to be co-developing their own Cold War game, but it was apparently so bad that Activision had to step in, demote those two down, and appoint Treyarch as the new lead of the game, and that eventually would become, of course, Black Ops Cold War. So sometimes having all these studios work together is a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing, and I do remember that years and years ago, a former Treyarch employee reached out to me via email. We're talking like 2015 here, 2016, something like that. He reached out to me via email because somebody had linked him my top 10 maps in Call of Duty history video. And spoiler for that video, if you go back and watch it now, it's very bad, like in terms of how it was presented and how it was put together. But the video is like 7 years old or something. But either way, the number one map of that video, and my number one map in Call of Duty history, still to this day, is CeeLo from Call of Duty World at War. I love that map. I have so much nostalgia for that map. It was so unique, especially for the time. I love it. I will never not love it. I can understand why people don't enjoy that map as much, but for me, it's still my favorite map of all time because of all the history and all the nostalgia that I have for that map. Back when I was like 16 years old in high school, crawling through the cornfields with my sniper rifle and online multiplayer search and destroy, and just having fun with my friends every single night. I love that map, and I always will. So the creator of that map saw my video, and he reached out with a link to an old website that he made detailing the creation of CeeLo, and it was really interesting. Like, I'll put a link to it down in the description if you guys want to go ahead and check it out, but basically he goes over how he had to take the campaign mission on CeeLo Heights and redesign it for multiplayer, and this included adding tons and tons of cover in the form of trees and removing trenches and things like that, and adding farm equipment to the map so that it would protect players from snipers. His number one priority was, this is kind of a sniping map because it's one of the biggest maps in Call of Duty history, but he wanted to make it so infantry players could actually enjoy the map, running around with rifles or submachine guns or what have you. So he goes over how he went through that and how everything was very specifically and meticulously placed on the map to try to create the best sightlines possible. He talked about how he added the symmetry to the map to make it feel more cohesive, I suppose, and how he also wanted the Russian and the German sides to feel more unique. It's kind of interesting because, like, going into Call of Duty Vanguard, we don't even have factions in multiplayer, but back in World at War, we certainly did, and the factions were such a big deal that the side that the Russians spawned on, they wanted to make feel more unique than the sides that the Germans spawned on, for example, and the same was true of the American side of the map versus the Japanese side of the map, and he talks about that in that blog post there. On the Russian side of the map, which, fun fact, was the side of the map that was exclusively used for search and destroy. CeeLo was such a large map that only half of it was used for search and destroy, but on that side, he made it so every building had a peaked roof with wooden shingles, as well as he added this big red water tower as a landmark. On the German side, he made it so all the buildings had these red tile roofs, and they also had these white plaster walls to set them apart from the buildings that were on the other side of the map. And he also discusses how he intentionally designed every single room and decorated every single room to add more immersion to the game for the player, which is something that I think Call of Duty World at War did an incredible job of. When you were playing that game, at least back then, it was immersive. Like, you didn't feel like you were a World War II soldier or anything like that. Obviously, we're talking about a video game here, but it was very immersive, and you could really get into the feeling. Every now and then, you would just kind of like lose your sense of reality almost. Like, you would get sucked into the game, and that was a fantastic feeling, and it comes down to the art design and the map design of CeeLo and all the other maps that we saw back in Call of Duty World at War, and I feel as though that's something that more people should pay attention to. Like, if we're talking about the unsung heroes of the Call of Duty franchise, I would say the people that design maps, the people that decorate maps, and the people that work without getting all the credit that they probably should. Studios like, going back to it, Certain Affinity is a studio that's been making great maps for Call of Duty for years now, as an indie studio that has like 50 employees, but nobody ever really talks about them. Nobody really talks about the guy that goes through in a game like Black Ops Cold War and meticulously and very specifically puts all these different set pieces everywhere to immerse the player within the world and within the game itself. Most people focus on spawn points and weapon recoil and domination flags and, you know, stuff like that, which I get, but if you really stop to smell the roses and just really just like look around as you're playing a game like Call of Duty, it is awesome how much work goes into the game to give players that feeling of immersion. And if you really do stop and smell the roses when you play even a game like Black Ops Cold War, Call of Duty Vanguard, or even Modern Warfare, you're going to find a newfound respect for map designers and the people on the art team, because once again, I truly believe those are the unsung heroes of the Call of Duty franchise. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all for today's video. Just something that I thought was pretty interesting and something I don't feel as though gets discussed nearly enough. I mean, it's a different kind of video in your sub box today, I'm sure, than guess what the best new Warzone gun is, or oh my goodness, this new thing is overpowered. Instead of having that every single day, let's stop and smell the roses here for a second. Let's appreciate all the little things that go into the Call of Duty franchise. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider leaving a like. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.